In this video, we'll cover a field workflow for landscape photography. The field workflow I like is composition, filter, depth of field, exposure, review. To help keep track of the field workflow, just remember CFDER. If you're having trouble remembering that, go to our website and download our workshop handout, which is a field reminder of the workflow. Composition. Guys, when you're doing your composition, you want to hand hold the camera. You're going to run around various places looking for the shot handheld and then bring the tripod to bear once that location's found. Okay, after running all around, I've decided I like the composition of this beautiful flower here, pretend please, with the mountains back there. Guys, for a discussion on composition, check our website. We have about a 150-page lesson on composition. So go through that if you're looking for more information about how to set up a photograph. Okay, after you've found the composition, you've placed the tripod underneath the camera, the next step is filter, F. Okay, so the two filters that you're likely to use with landscape photography would be a polarizing filter. Again, they remove the shine from non-metallic reflective surfaces, allowing better color saturation. And we can read more about these in one of our lesson handouts on our website. The other filter you might use would be a neutral density filter. They take away light from the exposure, causing much longer shutter speeds, which can create really nice effects in water or clouds might streak. Okay, so we've covered composition, filter, now we do depth of field, CFD, depth of field. What is a range of distance in the scene that's going to be sharp? Foreground to background, what is that distance going to be? In this case, I need basically, 3 feet to infinity sharp in my scene. How do we go about calculating that? Okay, to calculate hyperfocal distance, we need two pieces of information. The focal length of the lens, so this is now set to, let's say, 18 millimeters. And then we need to know the distance from the sensor plane, about right here, to the closest item that we want sharp. We take those two pieces of information and we go to a smartphone app or a hyperfocal chart. The hyperfocal chart on your smartphone, or if you've got a printed one, will tell you the distance to focus at and the f-stop to choose to get the required depth of field for the scene. Okay, so after consulting the hyperfocal chart on my smartphone, I need to choose the right aperture. Let's say it was f16 in this case. That's dialed in. The next thing I need to do is set the focus distance to achieve the desired depth of field. Let's say in this case I need to focus at 6 feet to get 3 feet to infinity sharp. There's nothing here 6 feet away, so I'll simply take the camera off the tripod, back away from my subject 6 feet, focus with a half button push. It's locked into place. Now I take the switch on the side of the camera and pull it back to M, manual. Now it's reattached and I can take pictures and the camera will not refocus because I've got it in the manual switch. So focusing in the field for landscape photography isn't exactly straightforward. We do have a lesson on our website devoted strictly to learning how to focus for landscape photography. And one last thought on focusing, many cameras allow the user to focus with a back button push. We disable focusing with the shutter release and put all of that back onto a back button. That is absolutely the best way to learn how to use your camera. All right, we've covered composition, filter, depth of field. Now it's exposure, E. That's the next step in our field workflow. We've got three variables that control exposure: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. ISO has been selected to be a very low one for fine detail. Aperture was selected for depth of field. So the only variable we can adjust for exposure is shutter speed. So with exposure, we're going to be adjusting the shutter speed. We want to do so by looking in the eyepiece. If we do it out here, looking at a screen here or on back, we could be letting in stray light in the eyepiece, and that could skew the meter reading. We have another lesson on our website that you can download, and it is a lesson covering exposure and metering the camera. Okay, so we've done composition, filter, depth of field, exposure, and now it's R, review. After taking a photograph, it's very important when you're in the field and you can correct any problems you may have made to review it for exposure and sharpness. When you're reviewing for exposure, it means replay the image, look at the histogram, and make sure the histogram indicates you've captured the scene properly. We do have a lesson for that on our website. The other item you want to review while you're in the field is image sharpness. You do so by zooming all the way in, then backing out 2 pushes of the button or dial rotations, then run around. Look at your foreground elements. Is it sharp? Look at your background element. Is it sharp? If it is, you're good. Otherwise, recalculate your settings for depth of field and shoot again.